brothers and sisters. I offer my most humble salutations at the Lotus feet of our Lord. And I'm very humbled and privileged to welcome you on behalf of Dr. Sunder and family to join us in paying our gratitude, remembering, not that we need to remember, we do, and contemplating on Swami's message and his glory. Almost exactly 1 year ago, we received a message that shook a lot of us to our very core. Different people reacted different ways. And we needed this weekend to search a direction where we need to go in the physical absence of our Lord. And we were just blessed to have a speaker amongst us today who has been speaking to us in the South Florida region for the past 3 days. As much as he's not very crazy about big introductions, I will do a very brief one for formality requires it. Dr. Sunder Iyer was one of the first students of Swami's high institution of learning. He attained his bachelor's there, completed his master's and his PhD, and later he taught at Swami's universities as a teacher. And he has been blessed with a lot of physical nearness to Swami and has had the opportunity to be Swami's personal attendant for a while. So in the past 3 days, no doubt guided by Swami, there has been a pattern emerging. In the beginning, he made us feel miss Swami even more. But then I think yesterday he almost very close to convincing us that the best blessings that we have had from Swami to date is actually his physical leaving. So we really get beyond that physical form. So we will hear his words. I do not want to stand in the way. Once again, we warmly welcome you. Please enjoy your time here.
Om Sri Sai Ram. I offer my most prayerful, humble and loving salutations at the feet of our beloved Sadguru and Lord Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Thank you, Brother Gopinath, for a very warm introduction. And thank you also for this wonderful opportunity to be here again and be a part of this satsang and celebrate this auspicious occasion of Swami's resurrection. I always have a starting problem when it comes to speaking about Swami. And then once I start, and then I have an ending problem. Unless a few people in the audience start looking at the watches, then something tells me. Usually I have my wife there, she will start raising a hand or wave a white kerchief. Because how does one begin? Where does one begin? Talking about a Sadguru, talking about a master of whom you have no idea. You have merely glimpsed a little part, and then you're asked to speak. If you go and watch a trailer of a movie, and then you come home and they say, please tell us the whole story. You say, how can I tell you the story? I just saw like 30-second glimpse of this. No, please tell us the story. And then you try and get the story out of the trailer probably and tell. So it's like that. What we saw, and And what we will continue to see, I think, is only a trailer of the divine phenomenon that Swami is. And the reason is because we are seeing him, experiencing him, listening to him, and sharing about him through our five senses, which are limited. So what can these eyes tell me? How true can they tell me when they already taught them what I like and what I don't like? How can these ears tell me the truth when I already have what I like to hear and what I don't like to hear? So we see Swami in our colored perspective. But that is good. And that is why yesterday when I sang the Kabir's Doha, they said take the body and color it in the color of God. So we have to reach a point where we give our senses to him and say, you tell me where to look, you tell me what to listen, and you tell me where to go and I'll go. And perhaps then we will be able to transcend the senses and get the vision of the real movie, as it were. So as I said it yesterday, I say it again, this is only a blind man trying to describe what he felt or what he feels the Sadguru is all about. There is no doubt there's such a beautiful, magnificent personality that Swami was, such a personal guru that he was to each one of us, and he continues to be. But the physical form will definitely be missed. I'll be lying to you if I tell you that I don't miss Swami anymore. A year ago, I can go back to this time when all of us were steeped in prayer, and some of us dreaded that this was perhaps the day we didn't want to see. Because knowing Swami personally, he would never have gone to a hospital or lay down on a bed saying, I am sick. That is not Swami. When he did it, we knew that this was a very big thing. Something that there was no turning back. And somehow deep in our hearts, for those of us who were close to him, students, when we spoke on the phone, we knew there was something very big happening. We couldn't put our finger to it. We didn't understand what it was. And though on one side our hearts were praying that he would come back, there was something deep within us telling us he may not, at least not physically. And so it happened to be. And it is okay to miss him. I don't think that hole in the heart, if you will, or the gap will never be filled by anybody. Even with our own parents, when we lose one of them or both of them, or as we age and parents, we lose parents, they can never be replaced. Nobody can replace your father or mother. Nobody can. And I don't think anyone can replace a Sadguru. And a Sadguru of this nature, who was so powerful in his omniscience, thank you, so powerful in his omnipresence, and so powerful in his omniscience, omnipresence and omnipotence, that there was nobody that you could even compare to him. And it is our greatest good fortune that we were allowed to experience him when he walked this earth, that we were all part of it. And we'll continue to be grateful for generations to even having known his name, to have listened to his voice. There is one thing good about the IT and the technology. We were able to record him and get it on videotape, and so we can watch him back again. We can put our tape and at least watch him move and talk and smile, and we feel his presence once again in our hearts. So that's one thing up for technology. There was a time when I was with Swami, and I had so many questions that would come up, and in some beautiful way Swami would answer them. And here is one incident I want to share. Like I said, bear with me for those of you who have watched the Vimeo interviews, and thank you, who have watched the Vivo interview, this might be a repetition, but this is worth repeating because it's a very profound lesson that Swami taught me. There was a time when I was studying in Puttaparthi and my father was transferred to Haryana and he was working in some village for a factory that was set up from Bombay. He got transferred and he was working, and one day he was robbed and beaten up and all that. And knowing my father, I knew he was a very straightforward person. He was an accountant for the company, so somebody thought he was carrying a suitcase full of cash from the office because of the payday or something, and some gang waited for him and beat him up and opened the suitcase, and unfortunately it was only documents. They didn't find anyway, but he was in the hospital and I got a letter a week later that your father was, but he's okay now, but this is what happened and all that. And I was with Swami at that time in his room and helping Swami along with other 4 or 5 boys. So the first time I read, I was very upset and I said, oh my gosh, I'm here. I felt helpless that I'm so far away and my father might need my help and I'm out here. But that gave rise to a very deeper question in my heart. I said, knowing my dad, I know he is a very straightforward person. He is extremely religious and he won't sway from dharma even one bit. He was always like that. He was a man of extremely righteousness. If he believed something, he would just give up his life for it. He would not sway. There was no compromise in values for him. So he shunned high positions, he shunned everything because he said, I'm not going to compromise on my values. He was always be like that. He was always like that. He was a very strict person. I don't remember sitting on my father's lap and saying, hey daddy, I want to play with you. Appa was like, I didn't call him sir, but I called him Appa. He hardly spoke to me directly. He'd tell my mother, I want to padike sollu, tell him to study. He'd tell my mother to tell him. So it was a very traditional upbringing. But nevertheless, I grew to respect him, and of course I was fond of him because I knew he had a lot of love for me, as with my sisters too. Anyway, so when he was in this condition and I heard about it, I was glad that he's okay, but then a question rose in my heart as to why do bad things happen to good people? And then I had heard stories of Sai devotees going through troubles and this and that, and I said, so what is the point? Then what is the point of doing puja and sadhana and worship and all that, and then something bad happens to you? Boom. Why do bad things happen to good people? So rather than writing to Swami, Swami, this is what happened to my father, please help me, please take care of my father. For some reason I had never thought I should take my personal problems to Swami, mainly because after living with Swami and watching him, I found he is so magnanimous in his outlook, in his reach, in his approach to life itself. He was so beyond all these little things. I felt very petty even to take my problem to Swami, physically, just saying, Swami, aim samacharam. It was very easy for me to say, Swami, my father is in the hospital. But I didn't feel like doing it. Rather, I wanted to ask him this question, and saying, why, Swami, does bad things happen to good people? They are your devotees. Why do bad things happen to them? And so the safest way is to write to Swami. You can write what you feel like, read about it. If you don't feel like, tear it and then write again. But I did write a long letter, a philosophical letter like this, and I explained whatever came to my heart. I was debating whether to give or not to give. So I said, you know what, let me keep it in my pocket and see. There was only a little part of that envelope that was sticking out, otherwise it was well hidden in my shirt pocket. And I went around my work and I was standing that evening, and for that moment I had forgotten about this letter. Because I was still not decided, should I hold it in my hand and as he passes by, should I just give it? So this is the thing, even though I was inside and you would think that, oh, he was close to Swami, there's no access to Swami in that sense. I mean, I couldn't just say, Swami, excuse me, I have a problem, can I talk to you? It doesn't happen like that. You just stay. If Swami stops and says, what is in your mind, Aim Samacharam, and then you have a chance to speak. Otherwise, he could spend days there and Swami would have never spoken a word. But he's giving you a word in the sense, a personal word. But he will say, take this, put it there, or go do this, go do that. That kind of thing will go on. But there would be nothing like a personal interaction. So I just kept it. I said, we'll see if the time comes, if the opportunity is good or Swami's mood is good. So the evening bhajans finished and Swami went inside and we followed him and we stood by the interview room. He went inside, had a really quick, like I said yesterday, it's really quick meal, which is probably longest it lasts like a minute or so. It finished and he came back. On his way up, he passed me and he just simply dipped his finger, took the letter and went off. He didn't even stop to say, what is that? You got a letter? Oh, like this. He just passed me, he looked at me, he looked at the letter, he just picked it and went. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have time to even think. Maybe I should have kept it in my back pocket. But that is Swami. He took it upstairs. And then I said, oh my gosh, this is like a big philosophical letter I wrote. I don't know if Swami would, how is he going to react? So I was keeping my fingers crossed. And the whole evening passed. I went up there, later as Swami retired, I went up to clean, because when Swami sits on his little sofa, that's a single sofa, he just sits on it. And then as he reads the letter, each time he'll tear it and put it on the side, on this side of this where he sits. So when he gets up, it'll be all these torn letters will be there. So we have to take it and put it in the waste paper basket, which is nearby. Sometimes he puts it in the waste paper basket, sometimes he just tear it and keep putting it here. And so I went to clean up and I saw my letter torn and kept there. So I knew Swami had read it, because once he reads it, he tears it. If he had not touched it, then it would have been on the other side of the table. So I knew he had read it, and he had already retired. So I said, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't write something stupid. I don't even have a chance now to read it back. Anyway, I cleaned it, put it away, and then said, okay, now what's done is done. So we'll see tomorrow what happens. And then the next day passed and Swami showed no indication of having read the letter. So he went back to his normal routine. He was talking to me for other things and all. No sign like he read my letter. And I was like, what is going on here? So 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days passed, a whole week passed, a couple of weeks passed, and I think it was 2 or 3 weeks had passed. And after a point, I just gave up. I said, thank God, at least Swami is not angry with me. He didn't turn around and say, what mad letters are you writing? With the philosophy and all that. He didn't say anything like that. He just ignored me completely and ignored about that letter concept. So I said, okay, fine. We'll just leave it as is. Let's not push the envelope further. And I carried on with the daily tasks. It so happened one afternoon, and this is the background I'm giving you, so it was fresh in my mind. But actually when it happened, 3 weeks later, I had completely forgotten about this letter incident. So it didn't even, the question was there, but like that, so many other questions came up to my mind. So this was completely off my mind on that day when Swami taught this wonderful lesson. So it is afternoon, and Swami had finished his lunch and retired up for us. He usually closes the bedroom and we think he takes a nap. We don't know what he does, but that's a short 1 hour, 1.5 hours. It's his alone time. And we had to clean all the vessels and everything. So that day it was my job to clean the vessels from the sink. Even that we would take turns, because every day cleaning has to be done so silently. After a while it was like, I can't do this. Just try washing vessels very quietly. How many of us, that is the beauty of staying with Swami. Every single thing was an act of worship, because you're in the moment. How am I washing it? How am I keeping it? Silently, slowly, slow down the process. You don't take things for granted. We don't watch, nowadays we watch TV, yell at our kids, talk to our husband or wives, depending on who's washing the dishes at home. I do at my house. I take great pride. Once a week though. I have to be honest, because someday my wife will watch this video and she'll say, oh, you wash dishes? No, I do, Sunday mornings. But anyway, so we just take certain things for granted, right? And there is noise, so noise has become part of our life, but in Swami's mandir, in his surroundings, in his home, it has to be 100% clean, 100% silent, and silence is really silence. So washing vessels was a big task, because if you make a noise or drop a tumbler or a glass, because it's all steel, and once you drop it on the stone floor, it's going to create a racket, and that is enough for Swami to immediately send word what's going on downstairs. So that afternoon it was my turn, so I was cleaning the vessel one after the other, and then with the Indian sambar and rasam which were there, See, a lot of people would give food to Swami, like his sisters would cook and give, and a big tiffin carrier would come to Swami's. And it was not for Swami, because Swami will always have some guests with him. And Swami will have everything open. What is it? But he'll have to see everything. This smells good. What is this? Oh, this is good. That is good. And he will look at everything and if he likes something, okay, take one spoon and taste it. That's a blessing for that person who cooked that day. So we had Mrs. Ratan Lal who would cook for him. Swami's sisters would cook for him. And so there's a lot of food, but it always for his guests, not for him. He would have half a chapati or something and get up from the table. Anyway, so we would clean his plate and all the other plates. So there was a little bit of the sambar or some rasam or whatever. So I just kept pouring it like this. You know, when you empty it, it all got filled in on the last one glass was empty there, sitting, and it all poured into that. So I was like, I came to the last glass, and I said, I have to clean this. And I was about to open the tap to clean it. Hey, I heard this. Swami will say, hey. I just froze because it was right behind me, this hey sound. I knew this was not a spiritual vision I'm getting. This spiritual visions are nice, soft and sweet. This is A is like, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I do? And he came like this, so close, from back. And I looked, I said, Swami, because I knew, I thought I had made a mistake because I disturbed Swami that he had to actually come down from his afternoon siesta. He actually came down. Yem Rashes now, what are you doing? I said, Swami, I just pointed to vessels. And he looked at that dirty glass. What do you people eat? Like that, you know, he just made a comment. And then he said, clean. So I was about to clean. He said, see this dirty water, clean, open the tap. And he pushed me aside and opened the tap. And he said, how do you get this dirt out? Open the tap. And when he opened the tap, water started going in. And then the dirty water in the little glass started coming out. And he was telling me, see, anta galis baita vastundi. Meerem chesna. And immediately he paused and he closed the tap. And then he said, because the dirty water is coming out, you people stop cleaning it. You're afraid. You stop cleaning it. Ippudu chudu, good to bad, anta mixed, confusion, doubt, anta idi. I didn't know what he was getting at, but this is something profound he was telling me. He said, you're trying to clean it, and when the bad comes out, you stop cleaning because you're afraid. And now look at it. It is good and bad is mixed. You're confused. Me confusion, me doubt, anta idi galisu. Good chera, manchidi chera, manchidi chera, manchidi chera. And he kept opening the tap. You know, the water started coming with more and more force, and then the dirt started coming out. Chettati bite I mean, when the bad things comes out, do more good. Inka manchi paniche. And in a matter of few seconds, a minute or so, there was no bad water left, you know, because the good water was filling it and all the bad came out. And then he suddenly became a 5-year-old. Chudu, 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 chudu. Ekkada galisu? Ekkada galisu? Where is the dirt? It's not there. It's only good. Good water in, good water out. Anta manchidi, anta manchidi. Good is God, God is good. Good is God, God is good. And then he started muttering, good is God, God is good, and walked off. For me, that was one of those Zen moments with Swami. It was like, oh my gosh, this was exactly what was in my mind. Because we start doing good, we start praying, and we start addressing our higher, awakening our higher self. We start reaching out to God. And then the first thing, and what happens, the bad coming out. And of course, Swami, as the bad was coming out, Swami said, Idanta galisu kaadu, mee bhayamu, mee bhrantilanta bayatiki vastundi. It is your fear and your illusions and your delusions that you're holding back is coming out. It is not dirt. So what he meant is, it is not the bad thing that's happening. It is your own delusions and fears that we have held over lifetimes. Which is why it is so, quote unquote, difficult for the ego. And I'll share that story again. We create this monster, the shadow monster called the ego, whom we think is big and actually it doesn't even exist. But we created this because of our fears and delusions and illusions that we are clinging on to. Swami said, when you start doing good, those things actually start coming out because they have no place to stay. It's an unwanted guest. Right? If Bala gets 3 more people into the house and slowly ignores me, I'll have to slowly move out.
I have to buy a bigger house.
He will buy a bigger house. He's got a very big heart. As Shruti said, today you are going, so I cannot escape this event. I have to come. The bad comes out. The bad comes out. Because the good goes in. So when we reach out to God in prayer, in deep contemplation, what happens is actually our innermost insecurity starts coming out. What does that mean, coming out? Is it you're getting confusing thoughts? Maybe that is one part of it, but it actually translates itself in experiences. It could be a separation from a near and dear one. It could be a death. It could be something that shakes you up. And that, because that happens, you tend to, Swami stopped the tap halfway and he said, because that happens, you stop it. You stop doing good. So now, we are in a limbo state. We stop it and we say, no, neither here nor there. So now you're confused. You've got half good and half bad in you. The delusion and thing wants to come out, and you're so terrified after the first few bad experiences, quote unquote, that you want to say, you know what, forget it, I'll just live a normal life. I don't want the spirituality and all that. So then you go back, but you can't stay back because you want the good. So you're getting caught between this. Swami said, do good, do good, do good. You open the tap and he said, let the divinity come fill you. Let the bad come out. Let the karmas get washed out. So we were talking about yesterday of how the moment, this present moment, what we are experiencing is because of our past. Fine. If you're a multi-millionaire, and always somehow we think this material prosperity is somehow linked to happiness. Even though we don't want to believe it, somewhere deep within us, it's in our psyche. Somehow being rich can be happiness. I mean, though we see how many rich people we see are really not happy. Or, let me ask a different question. Are all the rich people really happy? Can really money buy you happiness? We know it in principle, yet we desire, because somewhere in our heart we think money is the goal. Money is only a tool, it's an energy. If something else fulfills our desire other than money, then that's fine too. But somehow we think materialistic prosperity means spiritual happiness. There's absolutely no relation between the two. There's absolutely no relation between the two. And so, when these things happen, if there is a material loss or something happens and we go back in fear, Swami says, no, just do it. Continue with your faith, with your devotion, and let this dirt come out. Let the bad experience come out. Let your bad karma or the result of your past actions, let it flow off. I remember there was a gentleman who worked along with my father in the trust. He had a daughter in a wheelchair. She was extremely, completely physically maimed, and it was a very sad sight to even look at her. And this person was also very old, and he had brought his daughter many years ago to Baba. And even in his 70s, he had to take care of his daughter because she couldn't get up from the wheelchair. He has to lift her, bathe her, clean her, and do everything, and he was a single dad, so he had to take care of everything, and then he'll be working quietly in the ashram in one corner. I've never seen Swami talking to him. One day, I was very curious, so I sat with him and I asked him, Raghu, what is this? I mean, your daughter's here, what goes on in your heart? You're struggling so much for her. Have you even asked Swami about her? Knowing him, I know he would not, but I didn't know whether when he was a new devotee, when he came, he must have had a lot of opportunities with Swami. And he did, when the ashram was very new and there were even less devotees, probably in the 60s, and everybody almost could talk to Swami. He said, I did ask Swami. In fact, I brought my daughter thinking she'll be cured, so I brought her to Swami. And Swami told him, I need an accountant, can you work with me? And he said, yes, Swami, and that's it, he decided to stay there. But about his daughter, he said, I asked Swami. And Swami asked him, how much do you love your daughter? He said, Swami, I'm ready to give up my life for her. Whatever is there is for her. If you really love your daughter, would you want her to suffer this again in the next birth? No, Swami. No, I don't want her to suffer in the next birth. Would you like her to finish the karma off in this birth? Then he understood. He said, okay, Swami, let her finish it off in this birth. You can lessen the pain, take care of her. You will also do good karma. So it's very important that where we are today is because of what we have done in the past. This is actually pure common sense. This is, if I throw a banana peel on my pavement, the next day there is high probability I will slip in it and fall down. Correct? That's it. And if you are living in a group, somebody in my group might fall down. Right? So and that next day could be next week, just stretch in time. And then the Vedic culture period, like I said, was a very advanced civilization. I believe it was an advanced civilization. They knew that consciousness travels between births, and therefore they said what you do in your last birth can affect where you are today. You choose your birth, you choose your place, you choose your parents. Not choose in the sense of, oh yeah, I want this, not in that sense, but because of your actions, we are making the choice. We choose to do those actions, right? And therefore we choose the results also. If I choose to drive in the highway, I choose to drive, but then what I'm also opening up to everything that can happen on a highway. All the results, I could reach destination fast, good, but I'm also open to a potential or a probability of an accident, which is very low. But then yes, depending on how I drive, I have a potential of, if I say I'm going to buy a motorcycle, Swami has blessed it, now I'm going to drive it like crazy. Obviously, duh, you can't do that. So our actions are paving way or sowing the seeds for reactions. So today what I'm experiencing, what you're experiencing is a reaction of the past. But today is a great chance for us to plan the future. So it's all in today, it's all in the present moment, and that's why Swami calls us present, the omnipresent. This present is omnipresent, thousand fall to your right, you keep going in the path of God. So whatever the storm is, let us not lose sight that this is my doing, so forget it. I welcome it, it's a lesson for me, but what am I doing now? I could use this time wailing and crying and whining and getting more into this closed tap mode. No, I should get more enthusiastic about it. Good, the bad is coming out. Good, let it go through fast. You know, Swami tells us this beautiful story, and I was first, when I heard it, I was like, no way, I cannot be that. But today, when I asked myself, I said, yes, I would be happy if somebody had told me that. And the story is, Swami said one guru was, and this was one of those times when he was calling me hysteria and thinking how, trying to put some sense into my head because I was crazily attached to him. So Swami said there was this guru, he was talking to his disciples, and he said, and he was telling each one how soon they will get liberated. And then there was this guy who was working somewhere outside. So all the students, the so-called important students, asked the guru, when will we get liberated? Guru said, I will tell you. First I want to tell you how late that guy will get liberated. So he called that boy. And then this is how Swami is telling. The guru called that disciple in. So that disciple was working and watering the garden. He had not heard of Vedas, and he was not part of this learned scholars and all. He was just taking care of the ashram somewhere. So guru called him and said, here, listen to our conversation. So that servant just stood in a corner. And then the guru asked one person, what do you think? He said, Guruji, please tell me when. He said, you will take 5 births, another 5 births. Oh, he said, oh, 5 births, okay, thank you. So the other disciple, do you know when you will get liberated? He said, please tell me, Guru, I have really practiced yoga very well. He said, another 10 births. Oh, okay. He sat down. Oh, you're not happy? Guruji, please, another 5 births. 1 birth itself is taking so long. Another 5 like this cycle, oh my gosh. Then Guruji looked at this boy, the servant, and said, do you know when you will get liberated? So that person was, oh my God, Guruji, I don't know anything. And he said, it will take you another 100 births to get liberated. And that guy started shedding tears of joy, came and blessed and ran to the Guru's feet and said, thank you, this is such a great blessing, I'm so thrilled, I'm so blessed. And he ran out with tears of joy in his eyes. And then the Guruji saw all these students looking at each other. He says, look at the joy in his face. And they said, why would he be happy, Guruji? 100 births? And so the Guruji called him again, explained why. He said, at least now I'm sure I'll get liberated sometime. So there is always a way to look at it. You can sit and whine and say, oh, another 10 years, another 15 years, but at least you know, okay, there is light at the end of the tunnel, great. So even if it is a 500 births later, I'm getting it, I'm great. Okay, at least it's possible. So the possibility comes and suddenly it encourages you. It does not matter how long the journey is. So talking about these troubles, I think it's very crucial for us to understand. Again, in an interview, Baba was talking to us about I want peace. And he said, remove the ego, the I, remove the want or the desire, and you have peace. What is the use of asking me, I want this, remove the I and the want, whatever you want is already there. And so he looked at this lady and said, what do you want? And she said, Swami, peace. And we all thought Swami said, good answer, right? Swami said, very good answer. But there's always a but with Swami, and we'll all lean forward. Okay, now what's coming? He said, but how will you know you have peace? How will you know you have peace? You want peace? I'm blessing you. How will you know? That lady didn't answer. She couldn't answer. What answer can you give? How will I know I have peace? Swami said, I will help you. Oh yes, Swami. I will give you a lot of troubles in your life. From your husband, from your work, from everywhere. I'll give you a lot of troubles, one after the other. Oh no, Swami, please don't do it. That lady got tears in her eyes. She said, no, Swami, please don't even say this for fun, Swami, out of your mouth, I don't want it. And Swami said, wait, listen. How will you know you have peace if you don't practice it in the midst of troubles? How will you know? How will you know you're a graduate without passing an exam? How will you know you're educated without passing an exam? That lady was a doctor. He said, you're a doctor. How do you know you're a doctor? Because you passed exams. How will you know you have peace? Only in the midst of troubles. So the more the trouble, the more you have a chance to practice peace. Do you still want peace? That lady was still crying. But we have to understand that in asking for the highest gift, there is also, like every thorn, every rose is surrounded by little thorns, right? If you say, oh my God, there's too much thorns, rose is a dangerous flower, then you're missing the whole point. You still go for the rose. We still love to decorate our altars with roses. And rose is a symbol of love and peace and everything. But it comes with thorns. You have to be careful. So when we ask for peace, when we ask for love, we have to understand that in asking for this, there will be an emergence of our own delusions and we have to deal with it. And the more we deal with it, the more we'll understand what peace is, what love is. That is why I love to quote Khalil Gibran's poem. This Khalil Gibran's poem is when love beckons you, follow him. And he wrote this maybe 100 years ago. He didn't know Swami at all. But knowing Swami, I could relate to every single line in that poem. It says, and he writes it beautifully, he says, when love beckons you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. When he speaks to you, listen to him, though his voice may shatter your dreams as the northwest wind lays waste the garden. And when he embraces you, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he ascends and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the morning sun, so shall he descend to your very roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. And all this shall love do unto you, so that you may know the secrets of your own heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you're pliant. And then he offers you to the sacred fire so that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. You might say, don't call Sunder Iyer again. We just came to listen to some nice experiences, and what is he carrying us? But this is true spirituality. This is true spirituality. This is the true Sai that we need to explore and exploit. Sai naam ki loot hai, loot sake to loot, ant samay pachtaega, jab naam jayega chut. Sai naam ki loot hai. He is a treasure house. If we can exploit him and be brave, because however troublesome it is, you know he is there and he will never let you fall off the cliff. That is the beauty of the Guru. He will never let you go. He'll push you to the edge, but he will never let you fall off the cliff. You should. That is where you need the faith. That is all the faith you need. You don't need to have faith that he's the avatar and he's the biggest avatar, the Kali Yuga avatar. We have no ideas what those mean, so that's why we struggle with those faith. The faith that we need to have is, he will not let me drop off the cliff. I know that. He will hold my hand. We need a Guru for that. And he is that Guru. He is the Sadguru. Let me sing a small song. This is a song sung on Rama, and the beauty of the song is, for those of you who follow, it's the Advaitic version of Sita and Rama, and it talks about how Sita, the word Sita means purity, absolute purity, and the word Rama actually represents the Atma Ram. Your soul is the Atma, and every time you think of Sita and Rama, you're thinking of your own innermost truth of the pure Atman that resides within you. That is why Sita and Ram are always together, because the Atman, or the soul, or your innermost spirit is absolutely pure. What do you mean by pure? I'm not talking of morality and immorality here. I'm talking the purity beyond the idea of good and bad. We don't even have an idea of black and white, good and bad. We all deal, all this is part of relativity. All this is part of duality. But in pure spirit, in pure consciousness that we all are, in truth, it's absolute purity. Sita is there. That is the Sita. It's mingled with Ram, because Ram is pure Atma. And it's a beautiful song, and I hope I can do justice. Sumati Sitaram, Atma Ram, Sitaram, Sumati Sitaram, Atma Ram, Sitaram, Sumati Sitaram, Charan Karan, Charan Jar We were talking of Namasmarana yesterday. If nothing makes sense to you, spend time just chanting the name of Sita and Ram, of Radha and Krishna. You can never go wrong with it. Of Sai Ram. You can never go wrong with chanting the name of God. Things appear too confusing, things are too cloudy, things are too difficult to handle. Chant the name of God. Sing the name of God. And that will almost magically transport you into a place of safe heaven, if you will. But it's easy to give advice. Now let me share with you one story. And I promised the little ones I'm going to talk about a snake incident. And he's going, yes. This was a very powerful story to say, because to me again it proved beyond doubt that it does not matter that you and I believe who Sai Baba is. It does not matter to him at all. To the person who knows who he is, he knew who he was, and that's all mattered to him. It did not matter. So our faith in him and our devotion to him is a blessing to us. It's actually a blessing to us that we have been given this opportunity to be either through our karma or through his grace, we are here, and that's a blessing that he has conferred upon us. If the entire world would walk away from him, it would have made no difference to him, because he knew who he was. He believed he was divine, he knew he was divine, he knew his words mattered. And this incident proves to me beyond doubt that that was the case, and I want to share that story with you. It's a very important story just from this one point of view. And it's also from the point of view of how at the time when I needed to shout Sai Ram, I didn't shout Sai Ram. I shouted, ouch. So no matter what sadhana we do and yoga you teach all the students and portray a nice image, when it push comes to shove, it's your test with God, and he'll make you feel just like the curtain episode where you said, yes Swami, I'm scared. This is another episode which shows that you're not ready at all. You think you are, but you're not. One day when I was walking past after my yoga session in the morning, I saw a snake crossing a road, and the village urchins chased it and started hitting the snake. Much to my astonishment, right in front of my eyes, they tried to kill the snake. Just as that snake was just a harmless one crossing the road. But the snake, the urchins butchered it, and instead of hitting it on the head, which I later learned you can just kill the snake with one shot on the head, they avoided the head because that was the dangerous part of that cobra. And they hit it every other part of the body. So the poor thing struggled and went into the bushes. And of course these village urchins went by saying, yes, manchidra, manchichisam, idanta, patati. You know, how we, and it's fascinating. We do everything and we have a fantastic way of justifying our actions. So you can kill a snake and justify that, oh, that was poison, we saved the place from a poisonous snake. We can be killed in the name of religion. We do, mankind has lost touch with reality. And even in our little day-to-day things, we are experts and we justify how to, why and how we do things. Anyway, so this is one case of one of those justifications where you hurt that poor animal and then you just said you're doing something good. Now the next day when I walked past, I saw that carcass of that snake, and I felt very miserable for that snake, and I somehow made up my mind, next time if I see a snake, I'll just catch it and throw it away. Why big deal of killing it? So now I didn't think, this just thought just came to me. I've always loved animals. I've loved all kinds of animals. I love the iguana, but Maya, my wife, told me she'll leave me if I get the iguana into the house. So that's probably for the next birth. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But I love animals of all kinds, because I think they're magnificent creatures. They're all part of one creation. And it's just fascinating to watch how the little ants, whom we think have no brains and we are evolved, but how organized they are, how they have the fantastic colonies of armies and soldiers, who gets the food and who protects. It's fascinating. There are worlds within the worlds. When the Veda says there are worlds within worlds, they don't mean some fancy stuff. This is that. Every single animal, if you go into their world, it's a whole different world there. Just like when you enter the Sai community, it's like a whole different world here. You step out, it's a whole different world. So there are worlds within worlds, there are realities within realities that we can explore in this magnificent creation. So I loved it. And so snake was no exception. And so with this very good intention, I somehow started catching snakes. And in Puttaparthi, Puttaparthi means the place of handhelds. Today it's really nice and it's very well developed, but there was a time when it was not so well developed. There wasn't so many buildings, and we just had one hostel a kilometer away, but there's a lot of open spaces. And when we have hostel, we have food, and food is, you have a garbage cans just outside the hostel, because 400 guys eating every day and wasting, whatever remnants of food you have to throw, and the garbage has to be outside the hostel. So outside the hostel you throw garbage, and when there's garbage, food garbage there are rats, and when there are rats, snakes would be there, because that's a food cycle. That's the ecosystem we were maintaining in Puttaparthi. The cobras are very happy with that. And invariably, in that part of the tropical part of the country, you have cobras by the dozen. You could go to the hills, and on a very hot day, and you'll find them taking a siesta under, just outside the rocks or something. It's very easy. Someday I might do a guided tour. I'm kidding. But so there was no dearth of snakes. But however, it's not like you would bump into snakes every day like that. But it was not, again, uncommon to find a snake in our hostel quadrangle or just outside the hostel. Sometimes even in the kitchen, the snake would have come in, and under the huge burners that we had, there might be a snake hidden there. So one thing led to the other, and slowly I started getting this, I had earned this reputation of catching snakes and leaving it in the hill. So anytime somebody would see a snake, they would come to me and say, "Hey Sunder, there is a snake there. So will you come to catch it?" I'll say, "Okay, sure." So if it was a hostel, you could immediately go catch it. And like this, it just went on. The size of the snake also became slowly bigger and bigger. So I started catching big cobras. I started pulling them out of the holes, catching them and taking them away. And I knew that they were more terrified than me, but because they are fighting for their life, and we are trying to, and I would only catch them if they were in the college or in the hostel. I wouldn't go looking for them, thank God. But once I catch them, what happened is, once I used to catch them, then all the boys will be around. "Oh my gosh, it's a snake." Snake is always a fascinating thing. And they'll want to touch the skin and feel, and somebody will say, "You," and somebody will say, "Wow." And then, so I started showing them what a snake looks like. I said, "There's nothing to be afraid of. He wants to escape more than us. He's not a warm-blooded animal. He doesn't like our skin touch." So I would take the snake, put it on my neck, and I'd say, "See, he's going away." And in the hills, I would just do that, and he will, first thing, the snake, poor thing, is not going to turn around and say, who caught me? Come on, let me bite." He's the first time you let him go, he's looking for the ground and escaping. Now, we are the only ones who think of revenge. I don't think animals hold that. They just fight. If there's a survival, they take action. Otherwise, they let go. Anyway, so a few years passed like this, and slowly it was, I was a snake catcher of the town. The villagers got to know it. Everybody got to know it. And I said, "Okay, fine." One day, it so happened that it was a Thursday afternoon. I was sleeping, and somebody came and woke me up. I was in the middle of a dream, and somebody woke me up and said, "Sundar, there's a snake in the college. Please come." And I said, "Oh my gosh, don't tell me now. There's a snake in the college." Because I was taking a nap in the afternoon in the hostel, and the college is about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know, 5-10 minutes walk all the way. And by the time, invariably, there were 8 out of 10 of these calls would be a false alarm, because by the time they spot a snake, they come and tell you, and you go. The snake is not, sitting there just saying, "Hey, Sundar is going to catch me." wait, let me stick my neck out. Unless it is cornered in some weird way. So I asked this boy, I said, "Are you sure the snake is there?" He said, No, it is there, and it is near there was these bioscience cages, you remember at one point, the little cages, I don't know if they're still there. And so by the cages or somewhere, they had the snake, and he said, "It's cornered, it's in the concrete, this thing, so it's not moving." Then I knew, okay. So because once the snake gets onto a foreign territory, and its nose is exposed, they just play dead. They won't move. That's the only means of escape now, because they say, "If I move, I'm going to get," so they just play dead. All animals do that. So the snake was just still, so I knew, okay, there's a chance. I said, "Okay, I'll come." And so I started, I just got up, I was not thinking, I just slipped into my, we used to call it the Hawaiian flip-flops, right? It's a flip-flops. So I just slipped into a pair of flip-flops. Normally I wear shoes when I go to catch a snake, but that afternoon it was meant to be a different thing. I wore my flip-flops and started walking towards the college. I said, okay, I'll finish that, and then on the way I can go to darshan, finish it off and go to darshan. So it's time like that, 3 o'clock or something like that was there. So as I was walking past, and there was a whole group of boys started assembling. And in the meantime, since it was college, a lot of people had already known about it. And so there was a group there waiting. So there was somebody with a camera. So because the snake was playing dead, everybody had time to now go put makeup and come back to take pictures with it. So when I went, there was a big group. I said, oh my gosh, this is dangerous, they are too close. So I told them to stand aside, looked for a small stick. I took the stick, pressed the neck, pressed the head down, and slowly put my thumb underneath the mouth and held it. I learned that by trial and error method. Luckily there was no error, so the trials were always successful. And like I said, I started with small snakes, and I got to understand that this is how you're supposed to catch it. So anyway, the moment I caught it, the snake coiled himself around my arm. And then that day I was in a really jolly mood. You know, it says pride goes down before a fall. So that day was like, oh yeah, one more snake, come on, let's go. And when I saw the camera and all, I said, okay, this is not bad. Maybe I can keep this for my... so I caught this for the pet collection. I held the snake, and then I unwound the snake, called another boy. I remember it was Srinivas from maths department. So I told him, just stand, I'll measure him. I think he's your height. Poor Srinivas so tight. He said, Sunder, please let it not do anything to me. So I was going a little overboard with my actions, but I didn't realize it at that time. Okay? And so I measured the height, and then took pictures and showed the boys. I even remember opening the mouth, because by the time I caught it, the poison was, almost like a drool sticking there. I said, see, this is the poison and all that. And then I said, okay, let me go throw it up in the hill. Now normally when I would go to the hill where the Hanuman statue is now and the Krishna statue is across the Hillview Stadium, normally when I go there, I would tell the boys, you don't have to follow me. I will carry on, and then you'll stay behind, because that is his territory. We don't mess around there in his territory. I knew that much. But that afternoon was not meant to be so. So I went up, and then there was a bunch of my class boys who came running, and they said, oh sir, every time you catch the snake, we miss it. And today also we missed it. Come on, please show us how you catch it. We always miss that part when you're catching it. So now I've gone past the Krishna statue. The Hanuman statue was not there. This happened exactly where the Hanuman statue is now. So I'm right on top there. I was about to throw him in the rocks there and come back. So these boys are now coming and say, please, please, please. I said, okay, stand far apart. I'll show you how to catch a snake. I looked around. There weren't any twigs or anything for me to drop the snake and then press it with that. So I said, okay, you know what, I'll just use my feet and press the head and show them. Now I was not thinking, I've got flip-flops, my toes are not exposed, this is a cobra I'm holding. None of that struck you. Sometimes when you think things are going too good to you, there's something wrong, pause. This is one of those moments I should have just paused and thought, what am I doing? So they said, show off. I said, okay, stand there. And I held the tail of the snake and let go of the head. So I held him apart like this. So luckily the snake cannot climb on his own body. So he was just trying desperately to seek. His hood was spread out. And he was going like this. Because the photographer was there. He was taking all the pictures still. So all that again, I think my sisters and my cousins have taken all the other pictures. But anyway, so I was holding the snake like this, and he was going desperately trying to escape. So I let him a little low so his spreaded hood would touch the ground. Then I thought I'll put my foot on top and hold it. So I did exactly that. I let him a little down, and he got hold of the grip and he started going away. Then I put my foot on the head of the snake, pressed him, and then looked at the boys. I said, this is how you hold the snake down. And I said that, I didn't realize that this was a sandy soil on the mountain. It's not concrete floor. You keep him pressed and he cannot go under the concrete. But this was hard, just mud and sand. And he's fighting for his life there. And he's pure muscle. So for him to go underneath the sand was nothing at all. So somebody pressed him. He went under the sand. All this happening very fast. I said, so this is how you press the snake. And the next thing I realized, he has dug himself out and he gave me one long bite, 1 full second I distinctly remember, even now as I speak to you, I looked down and I couldn't believe my eyes, and that snake bit me 1 second and left. That's when I shouted, ouch! I didn't say Sai Ram. So there's a story at the end, it is only His grace, I'm telling you. I didn't say Sai Ram. I said, ouch! And I quickly flung the snake away to the bush, and I knew he's gone. And my next thing was, it was happened so fast that these boys said, sir, what happened? Did it bite you? I said, no, it's okay. Nothing happened. Just go to the hospital. It's all okay. And they knew something went wrong, but everybody disappeared. Nobody wanted to get into trouble. I don't blame them. It's completely my fault. What could they do, poor things? So I sent everybody off, and I thought, the immediate thing was I was in state of denial. I said, I'll just go to the hospital, take a blade, and just cut and let the blood go off. And I was expecting some black blood to flow first, and then the red blood will flow, and I'll think, okay, the poison is out. That's some weird ideas. See, we didn't have, again, YouTube or Discovery Channel those days. We had no idea. So I said, something like this will work and it'll go okay. So I started walking down, but from Hanuman statue, when I came down to the Krishna statue, which is there, if you know the Hillview Stadium, it's about 100 yards or so. As I walked down, the pain suddenly hit me. And then it was a searing, it was as if my whole foot was on fire. And I started limping. That's when I knew this is serious. I've never experienced pain like this before. I said, oh my gosh. So there were 2 other brothers with me, and they said, Sunder, I think you shouldn't be walking. One of them was a science student. So he said, shouldn't be walking, the blood travels to your heart, we have to carry you. I said, carry me? Like this? Snake ketchup being carried? No, forget it. So I said, no carrying. I will just walk down, let's go to the hospital. So the general hospital was past primary school. And I started limping and walking towards the hospital. As I was walking, I saw the darshan line going, and then it struck me, oh my God, this darshan time, I have to be there. What am I doing? What have I done? But the pain was really bad. I walked to the hospital, Dr. Alreja was there. He said, hey Sunder, what happened? I said, snake has bit. He said, whom? I said, me. Because he's used to people coming in a stretcher or something. Then he looked at the other boys because he couldn't believe. Then by the meantime, as he was walking to the hospital, we had decided to stretch the truth to the extent possible. So I told these boys, leave the talking to me, because I know Alreja will go in the night to see Swami, and Swami will ask him what all the stories, and if he tells Sundara is bit by a snake, Swami will ask how, why, and I said that I'm out of this place if Swami gets to know. I mean, Swami knew it, but at that moment, for us, Swami was the head of the organization, and he should not know. I have done a stupid thing, I don't want Swami to know it. So I told, let me do the talking to Alreja. So when we went there, Dr. Alreja said, you got bit? And they said, yes, we saw the snake, sir, please take care of him immediately. So Alreja said, what were you doing with the snake? I said, just social work in college. So I just left it, very general. Like I told you, we are experts in stretching and justifying and stretching the truth. So in my mind, I justified saying social service. This was social service for the animal. I was helping cleaning up there. Anyway, so I told him it's just some social service I was doing. We had a social service kind of a program in college. Boys will stay back to cut the weeds and all that. So that's why I easily said it's one of our social service, and it happened in college. So both were true, and that was okay. I knew he will go and tell something like this to Swami. I left the details to him. But he decided, he said, okay, lie down. He took my blood pressure and he murmured something. He says, not looking good. Come on, let us go, take you inside. So they wheeled me. I was lying down in the wheelchair. They wheeled me up into a room. And then he sent word for the antidote. And I saw somebody going, and I was lying down. The primary school principal, Muni auntie, and Mrs. Prem Behel, they both were there. And they said, "Arey beta, what happened? Snake bite." And so they decided to stay back. Now I don't even know them personally, because we are in college and they are in primary school. I don't interact with them. But at that moment they said, no, poor thing, we'll stay with you, don't worry, Swami is there. And they just stood by my side, and I was lying down, and I noticed there was a little bit of commotion there. And I asked this boy, what is going on? He said, no, nothing is going on, don't worry. So I said, no, there's something going on. He said, no, that antidote, the guy who's got the antidote has gone to darshan. He's got the key to the cupboard. And the cupboard is a thick almiras, Godrej almiras they have, the stainless steel ones. So once it's locked, it's locked. and there's no way of opening it. I said, oh my gosh, he's gone for darshan. I looked at the clock and I realized that it was 4 something, and I said, okay, this is darshan time. If he's inside there for darshan, somebody you have to go call him out for darshan. If Swami is out, he cannot get out. Nobody would walk those days when Swami is out. And so I knew that this will be at least a 45-50 minute deal. And that's when it hit me that I might die. Because I know it was a cobra. I caught it, I played with it, and it has bit me. And then it struck me that I'm going to die. And so I said, 50 minutes, nobody has survived. It's already 15-20 minutes. I was feeling a little dizzy, but then the pain was keeping me alive. So it was kind of, in a way, a blessing, because if there was no pain, I would have probably slipped into some la-la land. But the pain was so real that I couldn't even close my eyes. My foot was burning. But nevertheless, the moment it struck me that this is not going to happen, I said, okay, let me close my eyes, and if I have to die, I wanted, because I was so much into yoga those days, I said, if I have to die, I have to make sure I consciously exit through the Sahasrara chakra. So I was very fascinated by that. I had read about going through dark tunnels and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I said, okay, let me make sure I do all that correctly. Never once did it struck me that pray to Swami or something like that. I was more concerned that Swami will get to know I'm in trouble. That was my thinking about Swami. That's how Swami played if you ask me what was Swami's role in this, at that moment, that was Swami's role there. In my mind, he was like, oh my God, don't think about him now. I'm terrified to think. Swami gets to know I'm going to be in deep trouble for doing something stupid like this. So my thought was, okay, if I'm going to die, let me exit Sahasrara. That's it. So I lay down and I tried to do my breathing, and I started focusing on my process of dying. But it never worked for me. I did my best. I think I reached a stage of some calmness, but to be very honest, though I would love to say I was in a trance, I wasn't, because the pain was so real. And I was conscious of the pain all the time. I thought 5 minutes had passed when somebody woke me up and he said the antidote has come. I said, what do you mean antidote has come? Didn't you say he had locked and gone for darshan? He said, no, darshan is over. Look at the time. I looked at the time. It was 5:05 or so. So about 55 minutes or so had passed since the time I was in the hospital, plus another 20 minutes from the time I was bit. So there's no way that 1.25 hours would have passed. Especially at that moment, the only thing I can't understand at this point is what I thought was 5 minutes in the bed, lying there on the bed, was actually 55 minutes. And like I said, I don't remember going into a trance or going into some unconscious state or anything like that, because the pain was very real. It kept me alive. So I thought it was 5 minutes. Usually when you're in pain, the time seems longer. So it was a long 5 minutes for me, but then actually 55 minutes had passed. So I can't explain that part even. Someday maybe I might get light into that. But that was when the antidote was given, and then Dr. Alreja said you had to stay back. Tonight we'll have to observe you and then let you go. I said I had to go for bhajan. He just gave me one glare and I said, okay, I'll stay back. He's a big man, a doctor with a needle, don't mess with him. So I said, okay, I'll stay back. So I stayed back. Then my parents got to hear about it after bhajan. They came running, and my mother was in all tears and my father was so angry. He said, what is this? What is it? I told you how many times, don't do these foolish things. It's just one thing led to that. So anyway, all that passed, and that night I was taking stock and I was wondering, oh my gosh, what happened? Now, strangely, I ended up spending 3 weeks in the hospital. That one night observation went to 3 weeks. Now, during this entire time, I sit right behind, I told you, the Kumars. I sit behind them for bhajan hall. And if I don't come for 1 or 2 days, Swami would ask the registrar or somebody, where is this guy? I don't see him. What is he doing? But now 3 weeks had passed and he didn't ask about me at all. And it was not one of those days that Swami decided to ignore me or something like that. It was a very nice, cordial phase of Swami. So for him not to ask about me, it's almost as if he had wiped me off the face of earth. Okay, his karma is over, he's gone. So let him go. Like he didn't ask about me at all. So when the registrar or the controller examinations or somebody would come to see me when I was in the hospital, because they had all heard about the snake bite. So almost everyone came to see me, and it was very nice about it. That's a nice community we have there as students. Everybody takes care of everybody. So when they come to see me, I would say, did Swami say something? They would say, no, Swami didn't say, I'm just coming to see you. Oh, I said, okay, thank you so much for coming. But inside for me, it will be like, what? Does Swami not miss me? But I wouldn't write to Swami because what can I write to Swami? So I also kept quiet. And the wound was not healing at all. What had happened was, my mother started bringing, because from the hostel this happened and they got to know I was in the hospital, so she started bringing food from home. And she said, "You are just lying here, I'll cook for you." So she made sweets for me and everything, and I was having a good time in the hospital. Wound was not healing. So 3 weeks later, Alreja came and said, "Why is your wound not healing?" I said, "I don't know, I have no clue. The pain is not gone, it becomes septic, it was swollen like a football." And there were doctors who said, "Why don't you put some vibhuti?" I said, no, don't put vibhuti there and all. I don't want any vibhuti there. So that, for me, vibhuti for me was, if Swami gives me, I'll take it. Not you, nurse giving me vibhuti and all, I don't want it. I'm trying to tell you how that there was a point when nothing that you could think helped me with my faith. It was all just entirely His grace. I'm going towards that. So we'll come to this part. I never could understand how I survived a snake bite for over 1 hour. How I survived it and how I'm living to tell it. I could never figure at that point. Okay? 3 weeks later, Alreja said, your wound is not healing, so have you heard of AIDS? Now that shocked the hell out of me. I said, I have. Please go tell Swami, whatever you want to tell. You want me to tell Swami? I said, please tell Swami I'm here in the hospital. Please tell him that this is not healing. Because until then I told him, no, it's just a wound, don't tell Swami. The moment he said AIDS, I panicked. He said, no, have you heard about it? He just said, it's very nice, Have you heard about AIDS? I said, I've heard about it. What are you coming to? You go and tell Swami whatever you want. So that afternoon, this other boys who were in the Swami's room told me this story later. Alreja went there that night and told Swami, Sunder is in the hospital. Oh, that's where he is, I don't remember seeing him, Swami said. And then he said, what happened? He said, Swami, he's got this wound and it's not healing. So Swami said, oh, his sugar level is very high. Go check his sugar level, that's why he's not healing. So Alreja, then these boys are saying, Alreja just laughed to him. He said, Swami, he is 25, 26-year-old, how can he have sugar? Swami said, go check and come and tell me tomorrow. So they came and he said, oh, Baba thinks you have sugar. Does your father have sugar? I said, yeah, he's a sugar patient, he has sugar. And so they checked, my sugar was some 300 plus or something. I could have died just there. And it didn't strike anyone that it could be sugar which is not healing that wound. And so immediately Swami took over and Swami sent a message, tell him to take injection on his thigh and teach him how to do it. So Alreja will come and tell me, Swami wants you to take injection, you do it. Swami told me you should do it. Nobody is going to give you injection on your thigh. So this is how you're supposed to do it, hold your thigh skin just. So I learned to inject myself with insulin and within a week the whole thing came down. And a couple of weeks later on, a month later after that was the Bhaja Govindam drama that I was talking to you about. So, and later on also in the drama, and that's all, the wound healed and everything was perfect. And I went to Swami, Swami said, it was sugar problem, don't worry. And he waved and he created a small box of some pills. He said, you just have this is sugar pills, you have this. After this is over, I'll tell you what to do. So I just had that. And then he never told me what to do, I just gave up. And 25 years later, my sugar is perfectly normal. Thanks to Swami. But, so that is a small sidetrack for the story. But then, the snake part was always a mystery to me. Even during the Bhaja Govindam drama, the wound had healed, but there was a small plaster. So I was limping. And so Swami asked somebody else, why is he limping? Is he hurt? And they said, Swami, that palm drama, and then he came off. Now, there was a dialogue that transpired when I was in the hospital. Okay, let me go back to that moment, on that day, on that evening when the snake bit me. Later on, Alreja came and said, oh, Swami says you're a drama boy, I don't think the snake bit you. There was no snake. And I said, what do you mean there's no snake? I couldn't tell him, I caught the snake. I said, I saw the snake, but I know it's a snake. He said, no, it's not. Swami doesn't think it is a snake. He says it's a thorn. And for me, it was like, what do you mean Swami said it's a thorn? So then Chiranjeevi Rao also came to see me later that time, and he said how that when Swami came out for darshan and the antidote was not available in the hospital, Alreja sent word to somebody, go get this guy with the key, get the antidote. In the meantime, he made a frantic call to Swami. And that Swami, you can't call Swami directly. So you call the ashram secretary or somebody and say, can you please inform Swami ASAP that Sunder was bit by a snake? I don't have antidote. It'll take another 45 minutes. I can't do anything at this point. So he sent this word. Swami was already out for darshan. Mr. Chiranjeevi Rao was standing under the arch between the gents and the ladies, and as Swami passed by, he stepped forward to say something to catch Swami's attention. Otherwise, they will not get Swami's attention during darshan time. They can, because they have access after darshan, unless it's something very important. So he stepped forward, and Swami looked at him and said, what? And my father saw that interaction. He didn't hear what happened because my father was also sitting there along with the ashram staff. Chiranjeevi Rao tells me, this is what he told Swami. Swami, empty. Sunder ki paambu karisundanta. I heard Sunder has been bit by a snake. Immediately, Swami is in darshan, right? Immediately Swami said, "Adi paambu kadu, adi mullu, vadu drama chesnadu oorke." It was like, that is not a snake. Paambu kadu, it is not a snake, it is a thorn. That fellow is simply doing drama. He's almost like, you're stopping me for this silly thing. And when he just brushed him aside and walked. And Chiranjeevi was shocked. He came and shouted at Alreja. Said, what do you mean? Swami told me the thorn, you told me the snake. And then Alreja came to me and said, ho 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 ho, you are doing drama. You are doing drama. It is not a thorn. It is not a snake, it is a thorn. I said, no, it is a snake. But Swami is not believing it. So that evening I was actually upset that Swami just poo-pooed the whole thing. How can Swami say it's a snake, it's thorn? It was a snake, I know it. So I didn't think too much into it. I was more hurt that Swami didn't wave and give me vibhuti or write in the air and said, I will take care of him. Nothing. It was just like, he's a drama fellow. I'm just a drama guy. I mean, you think I did this for your attention? No, Swami. How could he just, like a flicked a mosquito off the shoulder? Don't bother me about this. It led to me a lot of introspection. Why would Swami do that? There was no apparent sign of mercy, kindness, love or anything like that. I know I deserved much sterner punishment for what I did as being as foolhardy as I was. But at that moment I was thinking, why would Swami just poo-poo the whole thing? And why wouldn't he just outrightly make a fool of me kind of thing? So it took me almost 2 years to find an answer to this. 2 years later, we were planning a drama for Swami's birthday, and we were in and out of Swami's room. And towards the end, in those 2 years, there's a big scar now. Even now, there's a part on my second toe of my right foot where there's a big scar, and it's never healed fully. So the nerve ending is always there. So if anybody stamps it, or if I press it a little, also it hurts me a lot. So that's like a constant reminder, and that's why I said this is one incident that will never go out of my life because it is there to remind me. So when I was 2 years later, was getting up after taking namaskar, and we were leaving Swami's room after discussing a drama, and then as I was getting up, I was the last person to leave. Swami looked at my foot and said, what is that? He said, what is that on your foot? I looked at him. It's a direct face to face with Swami. I said, Swami, snake bit me. That is a sting of snake? Adda. Such a big thing, right? It's a big scar now. So that is it? And he looked at me. Adi paambu kadu. That was not a snake, was it? He just kind of very playfully asked me. That was like, tell me the truth. Come on, between you and me. Kind of thing. That wasn't a snake, was it? Let me pause for a moment here. Again, go back to the stories that Swami would tell us many times about how single-pointedness of devotion is, how you surrender your senses to God, right? And we thought we are there. Swami asked for surrender. Yes, I'm ready to surrender everything. And so Swami would tell us the story of Krishna and Arjuna. And Krishna would look at Arjuna and say, look at that pigeon there. And Arjuna would say, wow, what a beautiful pigeon, Krishna. And Krishna would say, are you mad? That's a crow, that's not a pigeon. He would say, oh yeah, that is a crow, Krishna. He said, that's a parrot, Arjuna, it's not a crow either. And Arjuna would say, yes Krishna, it's a parrot. And then Krishna would turn around, and this is a story Swami would tell us. And Krishna would turn around and tell Arjuna, don't you have eyes of your own? Can't you make up your own mind? Whatever I'm saying, you say yes, yes, yes. I say it's a parrot, you say yeah, it's a parrot. I say it's a pigeon, you say yes, it's a pigeon. Arjuna said, it was a long time before I've surrendered my senses to you. If you see and say it is a parrot for my eyes. I would rather trust your word than my eyes. I would rather trust your senses than mine. Swami would say that is the level of surrender that Arjuna had. That was a level of belief and faith. So it's very important for us to take that home. And while it was easy for us to think, yeah, I can do that. Swami asks me and shows me and says, is that a crow? I'll say, yes, Swami, it's a crow. But here, Swami is looking at me now and asking me, was that a snake? And what should I have said? I said, whatever you say, Swami. But I said, no, Swami, it was a snake. Because for me, that is how we hold on to our truth. That is how we hold on to our truth. How many times, maybe if I had said, Swami, yes, Swami, whatever you say it was, maybe you would have just snapped me and I would have got what I wanted. I don't know. Maybe I would have waited another of that 100 janmas. I don't mind. But at that moment, I didn't. It's not a snake, is it? Swami, it was a snake. That's it. It's not a snake. And I started walking away. And just as I opened the door to get out, he said, Chudu. And I looked at him. He said, look here. And I looked at him. He said, from my mouth, I will never say it is a snake. It is a mullu, mullu, mullu. It is a thorn, it is a thorn, it is a thorn. I will never say it's a snake. Go. And I closed the door, I came back to the bhajan hall and I sat, and then I said, my God, what a powerful thing Swami said. From my mouth, I will never say it is a snake. So yeah, he said, I know, but I will never say it. It is a thorn, it is a thorn, it is a thorn. Even 2 years later, and then my mind went back 2 years before when that actual incident happened. There was no time for even creating vibhuti and sending it to me. At that point, he just had time to will it almost instantly with almost an irritated tone, like driving the poison away. He said, that is not a snake. It's a drama, it's a thorn. It's not a snake. He made the whole thing a big drama, a make-believe. And he walked away. And he stuck to that word, what he uttered there, he stuck to it 2 years later too, because even 2 years later he said, yeah, it was actually a snake, but I said it's a thorn, then it becomes a snake. So his words were so valuable, and whatever he spoke, he knew became the truth. Whatever he touched, knew was blessed. Wherever he walked, he knew he was blessing it. He was very conscious of how many chocolates he would pick up and who would get those chocolates. He knew it. In the darshan, he knew exactly where he was going, what he was doing. And so, whether we believe it or not, he knew that he was Satya Bodhaka. I am the embodiment of truth. I speak the truth. I am the truth. Let's end this with a small bhajan. And I don't know what to say. Since we spoke of snakes, let's worship God Shiva. Kalatitaya Siddhi Rupaya Yogishwaraya Namo. Kalatitaya Siddhi Rupaya Yogishwaraya Namo. Kalatitaya Siddhi Rupaya Yogishwaraya Namo. Jagatmitaya Vishwarupaya Jagatmitaya Vishwarupaya patience and for the opportunity again. I'll hand over the mic to Gopinath. Sign off.
Saram, we were supposed to go to 12:15, but we will load that time onto him later after lunch. Saram, we'll start off the afternoon with some songs. The first song will be sung by Sister Sita Gautam. It's a song paying homage to the Divine Mother Ishwarama. The song extols the blessings of the Mother who has given birth to, or he was blessed to give birth to the Avatar who is incarnated age after age and blesses us all. The Lord teaches us the path of truth and the value of service to Guru and service to humanity. We are blessed to be born at the age of Lord Sai. We are all grateful to Mother Ishwarama and the Divine Son she has given birth to. We'll have a song, Janam Diya.
next three songs will be presented by Brother Madhu Chandrasekhar. The first song is reportedly a very favorite song of Swami, who often asked the students to sing it. And also it was originally sung by one of his devotees, the famous singer P. Sushila. The song meditates upon the name of Lord Narayana, who destroyed the bondage of worldly life. There is no need for physical taxing the purse and rituals. Just the uttering of the Lord's name is sufficient. The song Narayana Mantram.
Om
song is in Tamil. The song offers up the prayers to our Lord Sai, the Lord who has come to end the Kali age and begin the Sai age. And it ponders, who amongst us would have ever imagined that we would actually live in the physical presence of God? The Parthi, the word of the Lord, gives us limitless bliss. The divine lotus feet, where all the flowers are offered. Oh Lord, you gave us humans, us mortals, very freely the touch of the divine feet. And you gave us the bliss of uttering your name, singing your glories, and doing so with our eyes filled with tears. You made us realize the purpose of this human birth. The song, Charanam Charanam Swami.
Satyasai
The next song is in Tamil too. O Lord, no matter what name I call you by, Krishna or Rama, all I can visualize is Sai's divine form. When you walk on this earth, the withered grasses come to life. When we touch your feet, the results of our bad actions just take a leave from us. We have seen lots of mothers in this earth, and we have been viewing you as our divine mother. How blessed is that mother who got the bone to give birth to you. Just by the fact that you gave us access to your divine feet, we have been freed. The song, Kanna Andalaipi.
பார்வையெல்லாம் ஓரிடத்தில் நிலைத்திருக்க மனங்கள் எல்லாம் மலர்களையே சுமந்திருக்க பார்வையெல்லாம் ஓரிடத்தில் நிலைத்திருக்க மனங்கள் எல்லாம் மலர்களையே சுமந்திருக்க நம் முன் வீற்றிருக்கும் சுந்தர திருமுகமே செந்நிற ஆடைக்குள் நிற்கும் கதிரவனே செங்கதிர் சுடரொளியே ஜென்மங்கள் எடுத்தாலும் சாய் பக்தனாய் நாங்கள் பிறக்க வேண்டும். எத்தனை ஜென்மங்கள் எடுத்தாலும் சாய் பக்தனாய் சாய் பக்தனாய் சாய் பக்தனாய் சாய் பக்தனாய் நாங்கள் பிறக்க வேண்டும். உங்கள் பக்கத்தில் இருக்க வேண்டும். சாய் பக்தனாய் பிறக்க வேண்டும். உங்கள் பக்கத்தில் இருக்க வேண்டும். எங்கள் பக்திக்கு உன் அருள் கிடைக்க வேண்டும் பாபா. எங்கள் பக்திக்கு உன் அருள் கிடைக்க வேண்டும் பாபா. பாபா பாபா பாபா. பெற்றெடுத்து சாய் என்று சொல்ல வைத்து கீதையை பெற்றெடுத்து சாய் என்று சொல்ல வைத்து சஞ்சலங்கள் தீர்த்து வைக்கும் ஓர் முகம் அது ஈஸ்வரமாள் என்னும் தாய்முகம் அது ஈஸ்வரமாள் என்னும் தாய்முகம் கண்ணா என்றழைத்தேன் ராமா என்றழைத்தேன் எந்த பெயர் சொல்லி அழைத்தாலும் என் கண் முன்னே தாய்முகம் மட்டும் தெரியுமே என் கண் முன்னே தாய்முகம் மட்டும் தெரியுமே கண்ணா என்றழைத்தேன் ராமா என்றழைத்தேன் எந்த பெயர் சொல்லி அழைத்தாலும் என் கண் முன்னே தாய்முகம் மட்டும் தெரியுமே என் கண் முன்னே தாய்முகம் மட்டும் தெரியுமே கிருஷ்ணா 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 ராமா 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 சாயி 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 பாபா 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 கிருஷ்ணா 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 ராமா 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 சாயி 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 பாபா 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 சாயி 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 கண்ணா என்றழைத்தேன் ராமா என்றழைத்தேன் எந்த பெயர் சொல்லி அழைத்தாலும் என் கண் முன்னே சாய் முகம் மட்டும் தெரியுதே
Next we have a dance program performed by Ramya Reddy. This dance is choreographed by Ramya's guru and the renowned South Florida dance teacher Srimati Harija Sivakumar. The song Baba Bin Namatte. Oh my mind. Oh my mind, sing the name of Lord Sai and shed your fears. And for a good measure, the poet throws in, at least from now. Your thoughts will come to fruition and the effects of bad deeds will vanish at his abode. If you have been called by him, that's the result of all your good deeds in the past. Lord Sai is one in a billion, who is the mother of devotees. We have been dwelling in delusion and our age is getting older. At least from now on, the song urges, oh my mind, sing the name of Lord Sai and shed your fears. கோடிக்கு ஒருவரையா எங்கள் சாயிநாதா பாடி வரும் பக்தர்க்கெல்லாம் நிறையன்று மாதா கோடிக்கு ஒருவரையா எங்கள் சாயிநாதா பாடி வரும் பக்தர்க்கெல்லாம் நிறையன்று மாதா மாயையின் இருளில் மயங்கிய நமக்கு வயதும் கடந்து விட்டதே மாயையின் இருளில் மயங்கிய நமக்கு வயதும் கடந்து விட்டதே ஆயுள் பாதி வயதும் கடந்து விட்டதே இனியாரும் பாபாவின் நாமத்தை அனுதினம் பாடி பயப்படாதீர் மனமே இனியாரும் பாபாவின் நாமத்தை அனுதினமும் பாடி பயப்படாதீர் மனமே 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 மனமே
We had another dance program slated. Unfortunately, the dancer is running late. So with your permission, we will have the program after Dr. Sunder's speech. So without making you wait, I will invite Dr. Sunder back again. We will go until 3 o'clock.